Good morning, folks. We have another video today. This one is about SQL functions, sum and average. And I know what you're thinking, it's just some function or it's just an average function. Well, you're right. But anyway, they're both pretty powerful. We're going to be looking at them three different ways. The first way we're going to look at is just how you use them normally from the command line without anything pretty, just to get like a sense and feel of what they do. And they're pretty obvious, sum, average. I mean, you know these things since you're a little kid. But then we're going to look at group by. And group by is important because if you've never, and you've probably used it, but if you haven't, you'll start to see that there's real applications of this for banging out quick little reports, or just displaying information quickly that would otherwise be difficult to do. And the last thing we're going to do is use analytical functions with partition by. Those are good for reporting, for data mining, but also for going on those pesky interviews, SQL interviews, where they ask you those pesky questions all the time. So it's important that you know how to do it. So before we get started, oh, by the way, if you like this video, please smash that like button. If you like the sound of my voice, well, just keep watching it. Feel free to subscribe. We love subscribers. We give out a free teddy bear every day. No, we don't. No, we don't. Dave, you can't say that. I know. So in this table, it's just a typical employee table. We got the employees, all the names are made up. There might be people in real life with these names, like this dude. And he makes a lot more than that. He probably makes that every day. And then we have the different departments, and they repeat. A couple of people in the mailroom. There's all these people in HR. Salaries. So basically, we've got the made-up employees, the made-up departments, and the completely fictitious salaries. All right. So now we're ready to go. Now you notice there's a big space here. That's intentional. And the reason for that space may be the final frontier, because I'm showing different examples of code as I change it, but I want to keep certain things anchored in the same place. That's all. So let me tighten this up a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a sum salary, and then I have to give it a name. Well, I don't have to, but it's better if I do. And I'm going to call it sum sal, for sum of salary. And if I do this, see, sum sal comes right here. But all this does is it says, show me the sum of every salary in the table unless I have a where clause to filter it. But I don't, so it didn't. So how would you like to write this check every year? 6,515,000. I'd like to cash a check like that, but anyway. And you can if you learn the program. So anyway, let's keep going. Now, I'm going to do average the same way. Actually, let me make this a sum to keep things consistent. This is going to throw an error from SQL. This is not a SQL Server problem. It's not a Microsoft problem, but it is a problem. It's because you have to understand how aggregate functions work. Sum is an aggregate function. It aggregates data. So is average, so is min, so is max. Watch how quickly this throws an error. Column emp, meaning this. See, the table is emp, the field name is emp. It's invalid in the select list. It's invalid here because it's not being used in an aggregate function like this, and it's not in a group by, which would be over here. So what that means is, oh, by the way, I have an attack cat in the background. I don't know if you can hear him. That's Griffin. He's actually a Java programmer. I know. I'm so proud of him. What this means is I would have to take these things and I would have to add them over here into something called a group by. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So let's just hold on to that thought for a minute, and I'll show you how we deal with that problem. But here, average works the same way as sum. It doesn't do the same thing. It's an average. But here, it's going to average everything in the table. So here we do that. Now you notice it does do the average, but it has like an irrational number. It goes 6 digits, and we don't really think like that. We don't have like 8/10 of a penny. Not really. In crypto we might. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast this. Oh, I hate when it does that. Sorry. I'm going to cast this expression as a decimal. Basically what this means is I'm formatting it. And I know this isn't what the video is about. I just want to explain what's here. It's going to have a total length of 10, regardless of the decimal point, but only 2 to the right of the decimal point. So it could have up to 8. So it can go up to like 99 million, if you will. So I'm going to do both of these together. So this is correct, but this is sharp. Nobody cares about anything after the penny. So anyway, do you? I don't. All right, so we talked about that. Now, here's what they look like together, because you can select them in the same select statement. So there's the sum of all the salaries, there's the average of all the salaries, and yes, if you divide this number by this number, it'll give you the amount of the employees that work in the company. Simple arithmetic. Let me just snug this stuff up here. Okay, let me just snug this up. Okay, and then come down here. It's important to hum music when you're doing videos. Studies show that people drop off really quick when you do that. Okay, don't really do that. Okay, so now we're going to do a group by. And this is where this gets interesting, because this right here, it's important to know how to do that. But the reality is the only time you'll ever do something on a whole table is probably like a count. You know, you might do a sum, you might do an average. You have to know how to do that. But I got to tell you, these two pieces of information, not really useful. Here's something that is useful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sum of the salary, but then I'm also going to take the department. Now remember, this threw an error before, because it's not an aggregate function. It doesn't say sum. I mean, how do you take the sum of departments? HR plus HR equals 2H. Yeah, no. So it has to be in something called a group by. So notice how this says group by department. See, that solves that problem. So here's what's going to happen. This is going to show me every department in order, because it says order by 1, the first field. That's an ordinal. Ooh, not like cardinal. Those are birds and people in Rome. Okay, it's going to show every department one time, but then it's going to show the sum of the salaries just for that department. And this can make a slick little report, a down and dirty report. Look at this. Advertising, they make a total of 109,000. Whoop-de-doo. Cafeteria, wow, the cafeteria makes more than the advertising. That really shows you the priorities of this company. Software, these guys are up over 1 million. That's why you want to be in software. And there's only 5 guys in this department, so they average, what, 295 or something like that. Or it's a lot. It's 217,000, 219,000. There we go. All right, math on Sunday morning. Yipes. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing now for the average, okay? But remember, we have this formatting because we don't want a funky average. Now, if you notice here, yeah, hey, the software, they do make 219,000, see? I can do the math. Now, the salespeople each are pulling in $500,000 a year, but remember, people in sales usually want to kill themselves, jump off bridges, not in that order. I shouldn't say that, that's not funny. I was just kidding. Wow, management, they make over 1 million a piece. Oh no, that's 115,000. Okay, some of these are pretty depressing. Like, don't look at advertising. Yeah, and see the cafeteria, they make more money, see? These people need better advertisers. We need to watch an episode of Mad Men, okay? But do that after the video. Wait till the end of the video. Oh, by the way, did I mention if you like this, please hit the like button. If you don't like it, please hit the like button. And hit the like button. Hit the like button. I'm trying to work on subliminal stuff. It doesn't work on my cat either. Okay, now, when we come down here, so you see the group by. Group by is very useful. But this is even more useful. This may look a little funny, this code. These are the all-important analytical functions. Now, each of these, this part here is typical. See, if I just run this, if I comment out these two, well, I can't be, well, I can. This is going to play just like our first line that we did, and we just basically selected from the table. You know, we've got our employee, our department, and our salary, right? But what we're going to do is use these analytical functions. And what's an analytical function? Well, remember, sum and average, these are just aggregate functions. But once we add this keyword over, and then like this partition by stuff, Then they become analytical functions. And what that really means is that you get a lot of functionality for very little coding. You get a lot of bang for the buck, but you have to know how to use them. What we're going to do is we're going to do a sum. Actually, you know what I should do? I should probably show you what this looks like, first of all, without using partition. Just thinking of that now. So let me do this. By the way, you should never do a video with code that you haven't previously tested. So we're just waiting for this to blow up. It didn't. Good. Okay. Here's what's happening here. I have the employee, the department, and the salary. But now what I'm going to do, this over and then order by this and this. This is going to make a running total of the salaries and a running total of the averages. Now you might think, why would I ever have to have a running total? Well, you look at one all the time whenever you look at your bank statement or a credit card statement. Ooh, are you using credit cards? Ooh. Anyway, anytime you look at a bank statement, believe it or not, even if your account is 20 years old, they always look at every transaction ever. They never just store your balance. It doesn't work like that. What you have to remember is with the running total, half of the things in there might be debits, like you wrote out a check or you used your bank card at the store. So there's a lot of with negatives in there. Here, there's no negative salaries. But anyway, first record, 134,000. What's the total? 134,000. But now we add 134 and 29 together and we get 163. We add all these three together and we get 397. We add all these guys together and we get 803. See, it's a running total. And you may not be able to think of something off the top of your head where you could use this at your job if you have one, or maybe you can already, which is good. That means that you're really smart. But you have to know how to do this in an interview or you're going to fail the interview. You don't know how to do this, you'll fail. Okay? Now, the average works the same way. It's a running total. What's the average of just 134? What's 134, Dave? What's the average of these two? Basically, what's half of 163? It's 81.5. What's the average of these three? Well, it's this divided by 3. Doink. What's the average of these 6? Well, what's 1/6 of 803? It's this. So that's how it works. Running total. But, you know, the thing is, again, that's not really useful because anybody that sees anything like this, what's the first thing they say to you? Hey, can you do it by department? And you could add a where clause where it says where department equals software or where department equals mailroom. But then you would have to have like 8 of the same query. But the boss is going to be like, no, just put it all together. And you could make separate different queries and then put all the results in Excel and then cobble them together. But come on, man, that's work. In that same time, that's easily like a fake bathroom break and 2 trips to the vending machine. Come on, who are you trying to kid? Here's how you do it. Now we have partition by department. Now, when we did this up here, here's what you want to really know. By the way, what I'm about to tell you now is just for you. Do not say this in an interview. I repeat, do not say this in an interview, okay? You can't see the red light blinking in your room, but it's really happening right now. These are both analytical functions and window functions, but I'm going to make, and this is the part not to repeat, they're not really window functions till you use partition by. I don't care what the descriptions say or the specification, but let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, notice how everything is grouped together by the department. Well, that's what we want. I'm just going to show you with the sum right now. This first salary is 18,000, so the total sum is 18,000. Now, when we add 18 and 32, we get 50. When we add 27 to the 50, we get 77. See, it's a running total. But when you get to the next department, it starts over. 31 and 30 is 31. 31 and 23 is 54. See, it basically does everything that we did in the last query, but it does it by department. So why is this also called a window function? Well, think about it. If you had a little kid draw a picture of a building, what are it's allegedly a big rectangle with a bunch of little rectangles in it. There's always one rectangle or two that are the doors, and then there's a bunch of smaller, different shaped rectangles that are windows. Things are usually not square because it's a little kid, but they're supposed to be, okay? Well, this is a small rectangle inside of a much bigger rectangle. This is a small rectangle in a much bigger rectangle. Window function. It's that simple. If we were to look at the average real quick, because I know this is like the longest video ever. What's the average of 18,000? 18,000. What's the average of these two together making 50? 50 divided by 2? 25,000. And on and on and on. When we start off with cafeteria again, it starts over. The average of 31 is 31. When you put 31 and 23 and get 54 and divide by 2, it's 27. So these now are a running total and a running average per department. A running total and a running average per department, and that's how it works. Now, this may or may not seem as useful to you. There's other analytical functions that we could use where it would make more sense to do it like this, like things like rank and dense rank and row number, but that's okay. That's all right. It doesn't matter. You have to know how to do this. You might not be using sum and you might not be using average, but the concept and the mechanics, they all work the same. There's probably like 15 to 20 different analytical functions that you need to know for an interview. There's ones like cum, dist, and stuff like that. Some of them you will never use in real life. Others you'll use all the time. I actually use lag at work. I don't use lead. It's a long story. I have another video about that. But listen, I've taken all your time for today. So please, oh, and that's my cat. He agrees. I need to stop. That's Griffin. He needs a can of tuna fish. Don't tell PETA. All right, guys. Thanks again for liking the video and all that kind of stuff and thinking I'm charming and witty. I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, do some examples with this. Go on that interview. Get that job. Let me know how it works out. Thanks. Bye.